Welcome to the Mushets, an audio play written by Mike Akers, produced by Wildwood Arts, with support from the Forester's Forest programme through the National Lottery Heritage Fund. Although the characters and people in this story are real, some elements have been fictionalised. The dates and key events that took place are as described in the reports and newspaper clippings reported at the time. We journey through decades, from 1856 to 1886, exploring the birth of the Industrial Revolution, here in the Forest of Dean, told from the perspective of the Mushet family, who were instrumental in the discovery of an invention that would change the shape of global transportation and development. And yet Robert Forester Mushet was never truly celebrated for his work, and the name Mushet remains relatively unknown, unless you're from the forest, of course.
Even then, on quiet Sunday afternoons, when the wheels of laden coal trucks weren't squealing over iron rails, when the fire beneath the furnace was only smouldering in repose, when the hammers were not beating the anvils but hung on their hooks in silent rows, even then you could hear birdsong from the forest. Blackbirds, willow warblers, chiff-chaffs, sparrows by the dozen, singing for their supper, or to the glory of God, or as a declaration of undying love, perhaps. Whatever the reason, their songs are the connection between this place as it is now and as it was then. Dark Hill today is a shady, tranquil dell where crumbling stonework peeks out from behind ivy and bramble, like the gravestones in a neglected country churchyard. The railway is no more than a footpath through the undergrowth. Even Aaron's Pond has been filled in and forgotten. Then it was another world, a smoking, choking, seething hotbed of industry and innovation. But the birds still sang here in springtime.
Excellent. Keep going. We're nearly there.
I shall have the muscles of a circus drum if I've got to keep doing this for much longer.
Yeah, just a few more breaths on those bellows. Keep going, Mary.
1856. My parents, at work together making steel in an outbuilding at Tump House near Colford, where I was born.
Perfect. Now stand back. It's ready to pour.
It makes for a curious sight. My father, tall and awkward, all arms and legs, with a look of the most intense concentration on his face. My mother, dressed immaculately in a corset and full-length dress, with a great hoop skirt, mopping perspiration from her brow with a silk handkerchief as glowing molten metal flows from the crucible along a channel into the mould. She seems entirely composed, despite the intense heat.
Are you sure you can manage more labour, my dear?
I have done harder labour than you can conceive of in delivering 3 children. This is no more than an afternoon stroll in comparison. Pass me the tongs.
With them, she picks up the glowing ingot of freshly manufactured steel and holds it on the anvil where my father beats it.
Most interesting.
Successful?
Well, more so than previously. Look, very little cracking. Promising. Highly promising.
What adjustment did you make to the mix?
Well, I used a fraction more Spiegeleisen.
Well, how much more?
A fraction?
Which fraction?
Oh, don't worry about it. It's all carefully recorded.
I despair of you sometimes, Robert. Why can't you write things down like a normal person?
You know that God has blessed me with perfect recall. Every detail of these experiments is described minutely up here, in my head. That's the safest place. No one steals a secret from inside a man's skull.
Robert Forester Mushet carried out thousands of these experiments into the steel-making process, helped by my mother. He committed none of the results to paper, so in the beginning only the two of them knew the truth of it. They had made a discovery that would change the world.
Gentlemen, can we bring this meeting to order? Welcome, all, to the pump room at Cheltenham, where the mechanical section is gathered as part of the 26th annual meeting of the British Association. The paper you are about to hear was a late submission and should by rights be at the tail end of our endeavours today. However, I believe the content to be of such importance that I have ventured to move it to the head. I give you the manufacture of malleable iron and steel without fuel, in which a revolutionary new industrial process will be described by its inventor. Please welcome Mr. Henry Bessemer.
The 24th of August, 1856.
Thank you, gentlemen, for such a warm reception. I sincerely hope my modest innovations in the field of metallurgy can do it justice.
I am only 6 years old. Perhaps I am at home practicing my letters or making a first foray onto the piano.
For the last 2 years, my attention has been almost exclusively directed at the manufacture of malleable iron and steel.
My father's attention has been there for at least 10.
And I made but little progress until the last 8 or 9 months, which goes some way to explain the late submission of this paper.
9 months? My father had molten iron running through his veins from the day he was born, passed down from his father, an ironmaster all his life.
This is a rough sketch of the converter I have just described to you. By blowing oxygen through the molten pig iron, impurities are removed by oxidation, and the conversion of steel occurs over a much shorter time scale. I believe that as this process is refined, the production of a ton of steel, which at present might take days, will be achieved in a matter of hours, or even minutes. Thank you.
Oh!
There you are, dear. Just in time to hear Lisowna's newfound mastery of Mozart.
Stop! Not another note! My head is aching. Please go to your room.
Yes, Father.
What is it?
Nothing.
All you've done is glower and brood since you returned from Cheltenham.
Well, perhaps Cheltenham has withered my soul.
I've always found it a pleasant place to visit. Did something happen at the meeting?
It was very long and very dull.
Nothing of interest at all?
A Mr. Henry Bessemer believes he's invented a process which will enable the mass production of high-quality steel.
And has he?
It won't work.
How do you know?
Well, because he hasn't spent thousands of hours doing the kind of experimentation that I have. His converter is an interesting piece of hardware, has some potential. But the steel it produces will be of poor quality because he doesn't know the secret.
Well, if that's the case, and his invention is of no consequence, why are you in such a foul temper?
Because he was virtually mobbed at the end. They were all over him as if he was some conquering hero. Arrogance of the man.
Well, you could have applied to present a paper. There would be great interest in the findings of your experiments, I'm sure.
Look out of the window and see who that is.
It's a gentleman. Quite handsome in his own way.
Let me see. It's Bessemer.
The inventor? From the meeting? He's come all this way to seek you out.
Well, of course he has. He wants the secret. Get rid of him.
What, that would be rude. Robert? Robert, where are you going?
Out the back way. Look, I'll take a stroll in the woods. Tell him I'm away from home. Tell him I'm dead. Just get rid of him.
Good day, madam.
Good day, sir. How may I help you?
I'm looking to make the acquaintance of the esteemed Mr. Robert Mushet. I'm told he resides here.
Yes, he's my husband.
Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mr.
Henry Bessemer. I heard about the paper you gave at Cheltenham.
My reputation precedes me.
Robert said it was fascinating.
I should like to thank him for saying so in person. Is he at home?
Sadly not.
When will he return?
Later?
I'm happy to wait. It's a fine day.
Later this week, perhaps, or next.
I see.
I'll tell him you called.
Thank you. And will you also tell him from me that whenever I ask the question, who makes the finest iron and steel in the kingdom, the answer I receive most frequently is the name Robert Mushet.
I'm sure he'll be delighted to hear that.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, and good day.
Standing on tiptoes on top of an upturned wicker basket, I watch this scene from my bedroom window. The fine gentleman walks purposefully away from the house, his cane neatly clipping against the flagstones on the path as he goes. There is something noble in the way that he moves. My mother watches him leave, a wistful look in her eye. Perhaps she sees not only a fine gentleman leaving Tump House, but opportunity skulking away at his side.
Forester, jump down on the track with me. The problem will be obvious. Come and take a look.
Spring, 1857. My father, with Thomas Brown, ironmaster of the Ebervale Works.
See? It doesn't work.
Clearly some damage.
The locomotive's only been over this rail half a dozen times.
You'll need replacing within a month.
Which is no improvement on the iron rail.
And you've invested heavily in the Bessemer converter.
I was assured it was the future. Now I have an order for steel rails from the Midland Railway that I cannot in good faith fulfil.
You have a problem.
A potentially fatal problem. My reputation depends on this.
What made you believe Bessemer was the future?
Well, everyone was saying so after Cheltenham.
I could have told you this would be the outcome. You should have come to me for advice.
I sincerely wish I had.
A lesson learned.
Don't humiliate me further, Forester.
How could I?
By holding out until I begged for your help?
I've no wish to see you beg.
Then shall we work together to solve this?
How exactly?
Well, Mushet steel is the best. The strongest, the most resilient, the most malleable. Perfect for the rails I must deliver for Derby Station. You have the secret.
Perhaps.
Could that secret be applied to the steel I'm making in Bessemer's converter?
Thus saving your skin?
Yeah, exactly.
You need to get Spiegeleisen. It's a white crystalline alloy of iron and manganese, and it's found in the Rhenish mountains of Germany.
You shall have it, even if I have to travel to the Rhenish mountains myself and carry it here in a sack over my shoulders.
A secret cannot be stolen from inside a man's skull. If you are invited into his head, however, offered the chance to look around and admire what you find there, then there is no need for pilfering of any kind. The secret has been freely given, with no mind paid to the consequences.
Oh, the bands sound lovely. I do like to hear the brass.
I preferred the sound of the wheels of the train going along the new rail.
To think the first steel rail laid anywhere in the world. It's made of Mushet steel. Well, congratulations, darling.
Thomas, over here.
Forester! I'm glad you found the time to get up here to Derby and see the fruits of our labour.
I'd like to take a closer look at the rail itself, but I'm terrified of being mown down by a train.
Yes, the line does seem very busy.
Indeed it is, but rest assured I've been up here a month overseeing the installation and monitoring things. It's had hundreds of trains pass over it already, and the rail is still pristine.
Excellent.
Exactly as it was when it came out of the works. You've performed a miracle, Forester.
It was a joint effort, Thomas.
Yes, but you have the solution. Simple but elegant. Burn off all the impurities and then add a limited amount back into the mix. That way controlling the quality of the steel with absolute precision.
So the secret is out then?
No, far from it. Look, Thomas has been brought into the inner sanctum. That is all.
Absolutely. My lips are sealed on this and about the Spiegelisen.
Well, nevertheless, you must see about getting it all written down and properly patented, Robert.
There'll be time enough for that. For now, let us enjoy the band and the sight of a Mushet steel rail heading out of Derby towards a gleaming future.
Perhaps we should go and have a drink.
Yes.
Right.
The Mushet steel rail at Derby remained in place for 16 years. Mushet calculated that in its lifetime, more than 1 million locomotives, tenders and carriages had safely passed over it. He wrote to the Midland Railway time and again, asking that when it finally reached the end of its useful life, it be returned to him. They promised to do so, but eventually forgot, and the rail was scrapped in 1873. He was heartbroken by this. He called it an act of vandalism and never forgave them. If he were here to see Dark Hill as it is now, leafy and tranquil, partially reclaimed by the forest, he would find it peaceful here. The man of steel might soften and bend, basking in the warm glow of the sun, until finally, listening to the bliss of the bird song, he might melt entirely.
In preparation for this project, we took a trip to Gorsty Knoll, near to where I live with my family, to the site of the Dark Hill and Titanic works, built by the local Mushet family. It is now a quiet, peaceful haven, largely returned to the wild. There we met a man counting the grizzled skipper, a rare butterfly known to like the habitat. We found empty cans, plastic bottles, and a shopping trolley in a hedge, which we dragged back to the car to dispose of. It seemed to writer Mike that the story of the Mushet family and the development of Dark Hill Ironworks was an amazing tale of commercial success and scientific progress, which inevitably came at a huge cost. Mike explores through our play how this was paid for in human terms, by the working men and women who toiled in the foundry or down the mine, with little thought given to their safety or comfort. Then there is the greater cost, in a global sense, to the world, paid for by the earth in order to maintain a system of industrialised production, one that ultimately relies on exploiting natural resources for profit.
Mother, where are you? The 4th of April, 1866. Today is my birthday. I'm turning 16 years old. Why are you hidden away out here? I've been calling you.
I was going to pick you a bouquet of flowers, a surprise for your birthday.
Is everything all right?
Yes, of course.
You're crying.
Only a little.
What is it?
It's nothing.
Tell me.
I don't want to spoil your special day.
What has he done now?
Don't be like that.
He neglects you, Mother.
He does what he can.
He thinks only of himself.
His health is bad.
He is poisoned by his own bitterness.
There is good reason to feel bitter. Your father is a great man and deserves to be treated as such. Instead, we find ourselves on the brink.
On the brink of what? Who is that man at the door this morning?
No one.
Why did you speak with him and not father?
Robert wasn't at home last night.
Where was he?
Oh, I expect he slept up at Gorsley Knoll again.
Does he even know it's my birthday?
I'm sure he'll remember.
Who was at the door?
A bailiff. There was just so much debt. They wished to take possession of the house.
Stupid, stubborn, stupid man.
Don't distress yourself. There'll be a solution. Well, where are you going?
Somebody must do something. I suppose it will have to be me. I am a 16-year-old girl who knows nothing of the world. The furthest I have ever been from Colford is the city of Bath. For the most part, I only know the house, the church, the schoolroom and the forest. Yet there is a spark in me, a spark that will become a fire. Yet where could it come from, such a spark? Even now, with so much time stretching between myself and that moment, I cannot tell you the origin. It is mysterious to me as the stars and the planets. Father?
Go home, Lisowna.
Do you know what day it is today?
Thursday.
It's my birthday.
Well, many happy returns. Now go home. I have important business to attend to.
Such as?
How dare you be so rude to me? My father would have given me the strap for less.
Mother is in the garden at home, weeping.
Well, these are troubling times.
What are you going to do to change things?
I forbid you to question me.
Who else will do so?
You are behaving like a spoiled little princess. You are lucky enough to be raised in luxury, but you have no appreciation for it. I've been too good to you.
You had to struggle. You had to fight. I know, it's a story you've told many times. What I don't understand is how that fight could just evaporate. Why have you surrendered?
You have no idea what I've been through. What I've given. For what reward? What do I have to show for it? Nothing but a brood of ungrateful children. I need some air.
He strides out of the room, slamming the door behind him. Which of us is a spoiled little princess, I think to myself, as he huffs towards the top of Gorsley Knoll. He thinks he can run away and forget my challenge. I do not give up so easily. Father, I'm not finished with you.
Why are you still buzzing around me like an annoying insect?
Because you're forgetting all of this. The manufactory you created.
What does it really amount to?
Look at it. The Titanic Works, the Brick Factory, Darkhill Iron Works, which you transformed from a few sheds into its greatest of the kind in the country. You built an empire and now you would carelessly throw it all away.
I never wanted any of this. It was my father's dream, really. My interest has always been in the research, discovering the secrets. I never wanted to be an emperor. I wanted to be an alchemist.
But you did it anyway.
Well, who else was there? None of my brothers had the wherewithal, and one of us had to make him proud.
And he is, I'm sure of it.
It's almost 10 years since he passed. God rest him.
His spirit is here, watching over us.
Then he sees me drowning in an ocean of debt, while others wealthy beyond dreams off the back of my work. He sees me as the one who's supposed to make him proud, sickening and becoming ever more weak and hopeless.
Why did you never patent your discoveries?
I tried to from time to time. I was badly advised, let down by associates, by friends. I should have guarded the secrets more jealously. But this world is a lonely place when you trust no one.
Please stop talking as if you're defeated.
I am Lisowna, and very nearly out.
There is no one in this world I admire more than you.
Then your admiration is for a failure.
You're not a failure. Tell me the story of your middle name.
Another time.
Please, Father. I love that story. It can be your birthday gift to me. I don't suppose you remember to buy one.
It had slipped my memory, if I'm honest with you.
Then I must insist.
Oh, very well. I was much younger then, so me and my brothers, we were sent down to work over at Librock Colliery. Father was a bit of a tyrant in those days, not the gentle grandpa that you came to know. And he regarded hard work as a virtue, the greatest of all. So he decided he would send us down the mine to toughen us up a little bit. We worked for 10 hours, barely stopped for a moment of rest. All of us cried at some point. All of us wept. We asked the foreman to excuse us, but no, he wouldn't let us out. So eventually when we did get out, there's Father waiting at the top, and the foreman says to him, "Just as you predicted, all of your sons are work-shy crybabies." Father was delighted. He thought he'd broken us all. But I thought, no. I wiped the ground off my forehead and I asked the foreman. I said, "Can I come back tomorrow? I want to return and work again." So I came back the next day, and the day after, and again until a year and a day had passed and I'd earned the right to call myself a free miner. That's when I told Father that I had a new middle name. Never tested me again after that.
You are a true forester.
I am.
Not because you were born here, but because you have the spirit. Adversity cannot crush you.
I believed that back in my mining days. Now I'm not so sure.
Isn't it lovely to hear the birds singing?
God is sending you a birthday present.
Or perhaps a message.
A message? What might that be?
Perhaps he's telling me it's time to prove myself a true forester.
I don't think you'd last very long as a miner.
There is something else I want you to get me for my birthday. A train ticket to London.
London was a place that had only existed in the mind before that moment. Manufactured from raw material to be found in the stories of Mr. Charles Dickens and the poetry of Mr. William Blake. It seemed a place filled with dangers, dark, gloomy, filthy. Would one find the marks of weakness and of woe in every face? Would the infants cry in fear? As I sat gazing at the shabby tenements on either side of the line near the terminus at Paddington Station, I thought of the meeting I had come here to demand. For a moment, the fire in me dimmed as I imagined the scene and thought that, in all probability, the whole scheme would end in tears. My own bitter tears of sorrow and regret.
Enter. You are a female.
I am, sir.
My expectation was otherwise.
I used my brother's name on the card I sent requesting this meeting, as I was doubtful you would see me, knowing I was a girl.
I have nothing against girls, though they rarely make an appearance here in the office. You're clearly not a Henry, but are you a Mushet?
I am. Lisowna Mary Mushet.
And your father is Robert, the steel maker.
Yes.
I don't have much time, so you'd better come in and close the door. Tell me what this is all about.
Thank you, sir.
I've tried on several occasions to meet your father, but I've never succeeded. He was always otherwise engaged when I tried.
I saw you at our house once in Colford.
I'm a great admirer of his work.
It could be argued that a great benefit has come to you as a result of it.
I beg your pardon.
The converter you invented has been an enormous success. As I understand it, if it had not come to be used in combination with my father's discoveries, it would have never achieved such popularity.
You're something of an expert in the production of steel, I suppose.
I am my father's daughter.
How old are you?
16.
And your father has filled your head with nonsense and sent you up here to confront me.
He knows nothing of this. He thinks I've come to London to see the ballet.
It's been pleasant to meet you. Please tell your father that if he wants to talk to me about something, he should do so in person, not by sending a child as his proxy. Good day.
No.
Pardon?
It is not a good day.
I was being polite. I pride myself on good manners. When I say good day, that is a signal to you that you should leave. Good day.
When you came to the house, the time I saw you, I was very small, only 6 or 7 years old. I had to stand on the basket by the upstairs window so I could watch you leaving. Do you know what I thought as you strode away with your cane clipping on the flagstones?
I have a feeling you will insist on telling me.
I thought there was something noble about you. I thought, there goes a fine gentleman, someone who knows right from wrong. Was my instinct correct, do you think?
One tries to follow Christian principles?
There has been a terrible injustice. Only you can correct it.
And what is this injustice?
We are close to destitution. The business is about to collapse. Our home is being taken away from us. The noble gentleman I saw leaving the house that day knows that you owe much of this finery to my father. He discovered the secret. He deserves to share the rewards.
I acknowledge that what he discovered has become an important part of the process, but he failed to protect his discovery. He gave the secret away.
And you would punish him for that, as Zeus punished Prometheus for giving man the gift of fire.
Rest assured, I shall not be sending an eagle to peck out your father's liver.
Perhaps I was mistaken about you, Mr. Bessemer. Perhaps you are just a businessman rather than a nobleman. Perhaps you only have ice in your veins, not molten iron. Good day.
Wait.
Why would I?
I've never had a conversation such as this with any person of your age, let alone a female. You speak plainly, but with great insight. And I admire your courage. How much is the debt?
It is written here on this piece of paper.
Pass it to me. Quite a sum. Here. This is a cheque for the exact amount. £377, 14 shillings and 10pence, made out to your father. The debt is cleared. I know right from wrong.
Thank you, sir.
One thing before you go. In return, I demand that he meet me. No more skulking off into the forest.
Later they did meet and spent many hours deep in conversation about the science of metallurgy. I do not know if they ever spoke of debt, which Mr. Bessemer paid, but he clearly felt he owed my father in some way, as he granted him a pension of £300 per annum. Of course, by then, Mr. Bessemer was already a millionaire thanks to the worldwide success of the converter. But at least there was acknowledgement that this success did not belong to him alone. In 1883, long retired and living in Cheltenham, my father wrote a book to tell his side of the story. In it, he said of Bessemer,
"In publishing this little volume, my object is to set the merits of Sir Henry Bessemer's process and my own process in a clear light, so that the world, in assigning to Sir Henry Bessemer's process all the praise it so richly deserves, may, at the same time, not wholly overlook, as up to the present time has usually happened, the part my process has played in the manufacture of cheap steel."
When I hear his voice reciting the words, I can tell that he still felt aggrieved at a lack of acknowledgement, as if the world itself were his father, sending him off down the mine to test his resolve, and still, deep down, finding him wanting, even after he had toiled at the coalface for a year and a day and earned the right to call himself a true forester.
Trees grow tall in the heart of the forest, high in the sky, and the roots grow down in the deep, dark earth. Trees grow tall in the heart of the forest, high in the sky, and the roots grow down in the deep, dark earth. Trees grow tall in the heart of the forest. Trees grow tall in the heart of the forest. High in the sky, and the roots grow down in the trees grow tall in the heart of the forest. Trees grow tall in the heart of the forest. High in the the trees grow tall in the heart of the forest. High in the sky and the birds grow down in the trees. Dark in the heart of the forest. Trees grow tall in the heart of the forest. High in the sky and the birds grow down in the deep. High in the sky and the birds grow down in the deep, dark earth.
These plays dramatise the lives of the industrial pioneer Robert Forester Mushet, his wife Mary, and their daughter Lisowna Mary Mushet during the mid-19th century, at a time when the Forest of Dean was a hotbed of industry and innovation, when the high-quality steel that was being manufactured here was the envy of the world. In the Mushets play, we meet Forester, who, working closely with his wife Mary, discovered an industrial invention that changed the world forever, and that of his daughter Lisowna, who at 16 years old took a radically brave and life-changing journey to right what she saw as being a huge betrayal on her family. Her quest for honesty, truth and equality speaks to us all, even today, a universal belief in fairness and egalitarianism, one that represents hope for a positive future if we only had the courage to stand up for what we believe in. Gorsey Knoll, my home, has been right the way through this process, from wilderness to hotbed of industry and back again. With climate change and biodiversity so present in the news, perhaps the story of Darkhill has something to say to us now. How do we balance the consequences of consumerism and globalization, the very ideas that have their origins in the Industrial Revolution and the pioneering entrepreneurs like the Mushets, right here in the Forest of Dean?
The secrets of what was once the Darkhill Ironworks are mostly buried beneath the ground now. Some of the walls remain. A great rounded stone used to grind clay for the brickworks lies on its side in the tall grass, like a silent memorial to the men who laboured here. Somewhere amongst the wildflowers is what was called by steelmakers a bear, a solid mineral lump made up of the impurities skimmed from the top of the pure molten iron. Everything else is gone. The brickworks, the ironworks, the steelworks, and the coal mine. No machines toil here. The furnaces are a memory held only by the land on which they stood. Nature always returns, even to the places scarred and poisoned by industry, as this one was.
Beside him, who's a pretty girl milking her cow?
A fine spring morning in 1873. I think I'm dreaming of the Garden of Love.
Miss, excuse me, miss. Is that all right?
I open my eyes and find myself staring up at the sky. It is very blue today. I am in a state of complete serenity.
Miss, cause so we're right.
The calm soon evaporates. I have no clue where I am or how I came to be here.
Here, let I up to the sit-up.
Thank you.
Oh, this gave I quite a fright.
Did I? How?
The bits are pale, and I was just lying in the grass still.
You thought I was dead?
I didn't know what to think.
Who are you?
I'm Powell. I'd come these way every day, taking the milk round.
I was dreaming of the Garden of Love.
Thy dreams be the own business.
It's a poem by William Blake.
I don't go in for poetry.
I went to the Garden of Love and saw what I had never seen.
I could see quite clearly that thou bist unwell.
Why do you say that?
Thou look like death warmed up and there's spit all down thy chin. Here.
Is there?
Had I wipe it off for thee. There, that's better. What thou'st need is a nice ladle of fresh milk from the cow.
Oh, I'm not sure that will help.
Trust I, a ladle of milk fresh from the cow is the cure for most ills. This be the good stuff. 'Twas still in the cow's udder not 2 hours ago. Thou will soon perk up.
Thank you.
Finish it off, go on. Give it 5 minutes and they'll feel as right as rain.
I don't want to hold you up.
Oh, sure, no bother.
I must have taken a tumble.
Does the other?
Not really. I feel like I'm in something of a daze.
And those didn't just lie down to take a little nap?
The last thing I remember is leaving my home to go for a walk.
Well, where does they live?
Tump House?
Oh, thou bist a Mushet then.
Lisowna Mary Mushet. How did you know?
Thou bist dressed too well to be one of the servants. I must be on my way. I hope this feel better.
Mrs. Powell, wait. Where do you
Good day to
live?
her.
You should be rewarded for your kindness. As she left, she turned and glanced back at me. I waved and, reluctantly, with an air of sadness, she raised her hand in return. It was only then that I noticed the livid red scars covering her hand and running all the way down her arm.
Made you some tea.
You should have had the housekeeper do it.
Wanted to bring it to you myself.
What's the point of having staff if you do all the work for them?
What's the point in having a mother if she can't take care of you when you've been unwell?
Let me pour.
Absolutely not. The pot is quite heavy and you're still recovering your strength.
May I put the milk in the cup at least?
Very well. Special treat.
Thank you, Mother. It is nice to be pampered.
You deserve it.
Nonsense.
If you hadn't taken it upon yourself to travel to London all those years ago and speak with Mr. Bessemer on your father's behalf, we wouldn't be able to afford servants.
Or a teapot.
Or tea, for that matter. Hot water might be a stretch. I do think we should get the physician.
No.
There must be an explanation for you fainting like that.
I feel much better. It was a turn, that's all. I shouldn't have told you. There was no need.
How is the patient?
You as well. Mother's already done enough fussing.
Well, I came as soon as I heard. What happened exactly?
I had a funny turn whilst out walking.
She collapsed. Has no memory of what happened. If a woman hadn't found her, she'd be lying in the meadow still.
Well, that was very fortunate.
She was very kind. Anne Powell, the milkwoman?
Mrs. Powell?
Oh, do you know her?
Not really.
I think we should get you tucked up into bed.
Who is she?
Well, the husband used to work at Darkhill.
It was a long time ago.
Yes, before you were born.
Come on, you need your rest.
That night in my dreams, I saw something I had never seen. Or rather, I saw something familiar in a completely new way. I stood on Gorsty Knoll beside my father, looking down on Darkhill and the Titanic works, as I had once done all those years ago, before I got on the train to London. Then I had perceived before me a triumph, a tribute in stone, slate, and fire to my father's genius. This time, when I gazed on the buildings and the rails on the track, I saw something monstrous. The manufactory seemed to become a living beast, devouring the land, swallowing the forest, and choking any bird which dared open its beak trying to sing. I looked to my father, but his face was perfectly composed. Only I knew the buildings at Darkhill for what they really were. Dark, satanic mills.
Oh, you're up early.
I wanted to see you before you left.
How are you feeling?
Perfectly well. There's nothing to be concerned about.
We must have you examined.
Can I ask you about Anne Powell?
What about her?
You obviously know her, and when I told her I was a Mushet, her attitude towards me changed. She hurried away.
That doesn't surprise me.
What's the connection?
It's one I would rather not think of.
Tell me, Father. Please.
On one condition. Allow me to call the doctor and submit to a thorough examination. Something caused you to collapse like that, and it should not be ignored.
All right, but only to put your mind at rest. Now, tell me about Anne Powell.
Her husband worked at Darkhill, as I mentioned. William was his name. This is nearly 30 years ago. He was a good man. He worked hard, true forester. Unfortunately, there was an accident.
What happened?
An explosion in the old haystack boiler. William and his brother George were working beside it. They were both killed.
Poor Mrs. Powell.
The worst of it was that she witnessed the whole event. She had just arrived on site, bringing the boys their lunch.
That is terrible.
Misfortune struck us all that day. I hate to think of it, but I carry it with me nevertheless.
Why did the boiler explode?
Well, the magistrate investigated, but it was hard to say for sure. He concluded it was probably some negligence on the part of the workmen themselves. But God only knows what really happened.
Did you feel badly about it?
Of course I did. But such is the price of progress.
Miss Mushet,
Hello, Mrs. Powell.
what was thou doing here?
I came to thank you. Here,
What's this?
I had the housekeeper bake a cake for you.
Oh, that'd be very kind of her.
I heard from my father about what happened to your husband.
Oh, that be long in the past.
Were you very badly injured yourself? I couldn't help but notice the scars on your arm.
Thank thee for the cake. I'll look forward to eating it.
With a nice ladle of milk?
Exactly. Good
I
day.
keep thinking about it. The explosion. It happened before I was even born, I know that, but I've been having strange dreams about Dark Hill. I feel compelled to make amends to you. I wonder if this is what precipitated my collapse in the meadow. What if God meant for it to happen, so that you and I could have this conversation?
I didn't know about that.
I'm so sorry for what happened to you and your husband.
And poor little Herbert.
Herbert?
Our youngest babby. I was carrying him in my arms when the boiler exploded.
You lost a son as well?
It all happened so fast. I was knocked off me vet, and when I came to, Herbert was nowhere to be seen. I found him a good 20 foot away, not a mark on it, not a scratch, but him was gone all the same.
How old?
Only a year.
That's tragic. I'm so sorry. How did you cope?
Out of necessity. I had 2 others to raise alone, both injured in the blast. Live either gave I a small sum, but once that was gone I was on me own. Life hard for the likes of I, a true forester must be ours in return, if they be to endure it.
This is not a particularly convenient time for a visit, Lisowna.
It is important.
Out with it then.
Why did you neglect to tell me that Anne Powell's son was also killed in the explosion? A boy, only 1 year of age.
I don't understand.
You didn't tell me the whole story. Why?
If you wanted all the details, perhaps you should have looked for a back copy of the Gloucester Journal.
The death of a child is hardly an insignificant detail.
I am aware of that.
So why didn't you tell me?
I find that aspect of the tragedy too painful to contemplate.
And what of poor Mrs. Powell? How painful it must be for her.
Extremely, I would imagine.
I am coming to believe that my collapse in the meadow was no accident.
What are you talking about?
God brought Mrs. Powell to me so this story might be told.
Lisowna?
I turned to the
Are you
garden
right?
of love that so many sweet flowers bore, and I saw it was filled with graves and tombstones where flowers should be.
Lisowna! Help! In here! I need some help!
How are you feeling now?
Weak.
The doctor says it's a mania. May have happened because of the full moon. He says it will pass.
Is Father all right?
He was distressed, of course, but it's you we need to concentrate on.
It must be terrible to lose a child.
Well, you're not going anywhere, my love.
I was thinking of Anne Powell. Father said it was the price of progress. I think Anne might say that the price of progress is too high.
Quiet now. Your mind needs to rest just as your body does. No reading poetry in bed tonight. I'm blowing the candle out. Good night, Lisowna.
Good night, Mother. I love you.
I love you too.
What remains of Dark Hill Ironworks is mostly buried beneath the ground now. My remains are also to be found there in Cheltenham Cemetery. The mania did not pass with the waning of the moon. I was 25 years of age when I died. I still haunt the slopes of Gorsty Knoll from time to time, listening to the bird song from the forest and gazing in wonder at the transformation. It is a peaceful place now, a tranquil place, just as the Garden of Love should be. Day trippers come to explore the ruins of my father's manufactory. At night, sometimes, groups of the young sit around little fires and drink themselves silly. The orange glow of the flames like a pale, flickering shadow of Dark Hill as it was then. A man in a wide-brimmed hat, wearing sandals, searches the undergrowth and carefully logs each sighting of the grizzled skipper, a rare butterfly that has made a home for itself here. A group of ramblers discover the remains of a metal shopping trolley halfway down the embankment of the old railway line and carefully haul it up to be taken away and recycled. The world turns. Progress knows no end. For now, the birds still sing their songs from the forest.
This audio play was written by Mike Akers, produced by Wildwood Arts, made possible with the National Lottery Heritage Fund through the Forester's Forest programme, and brings together a wide community of performers who all live here in the forest. The cast is Graham Williams as Robert Forester Mushet, Georgiana Jane as Mary Mushet, Henry Bessemer is played by Simon Moore, and the MC is Paula Simpson. Thomas Brown, played by Jason Griffiths, and Sarah Lation as Mrs. Ann Powell. Reflecting the many facets of the character and her experiences, several performers take the role of Lisowna. They are Lucy McKean, Georgia Watson, and Holly Griffin. Music is composed by Pat Moran, with editing and sound design by Nikki Ruck. The director is Rachel Adams. And I'm Gracie Powell. Thank you for listening.